here are the 10 craziest crimes in Florida. Be forewarned, some of these are pretty grizz.
And before you start watching this, please subscribe. It really makes a difference.
Number 10. Adventures in Babysitting. 24-year-old Larry Floyd was babysitting his 20-month-old nephew when he had a bright idea. He was going to circumcise the young boy. He wasn't a doctor, and he didn't have any medical tools, so he would have to improvise. When the boy's father returned home, he found his son bloodied and crying and rushed him to the hospital. Meanwhile, police arrested Floyd. After interviewing him, they learned that he tried to cut off the boy's foreskin with a regular old kitchen knife. But the really weird thing about it is, while all this was going on, there was another uncle in the apartment who didn't care to check on the commotion. The boy is doing fine now, but he might want to think about moving to another state. Number 9. Cujo. In 2015, David Etzel was visiting his mother in Lake Worth, and as with all good Florida stories, Etzel started to drink heavily. It's not clear why he turned his attention to Cujo. Maybe the little dog was a yapper. Maybe the dog didn't like the smell of whiskey. But in any case, it's reported Etzel was harassing the dog when it bit him. It's probably worth mentioning that Etzel is 6'8" and nearly 400 pounds. He's a giant, and when you upset a giant, you better watch out. Apparently, he grabbed the dog to bite him back, but squeezed him so hard, his eyeball popped out of its socket. The dog underwent several surgeries to reattach the eye, which cost dear mother $2,200 at the vet. He was sentenced to 1 year for animal cruelty. Number 8. Bad parents. Joey and Chad Mudd from Tampa, Florida are definitely bribers. They decided to offer their 2 teenage daughters drugs to do their chores. Their mother admitted to police that she smoked marijuana with the girls on at least 5 occasions. Meanwhile, their father admitted to doing cocaine with the girls at least once in his truck. In their words, it was a bargaining tool to get the girls to behave. Joey and Chad were arrested on child abuse charges, and the children were sent to live with a relative. Ultimately, Joey was released on bond, and Chad spent some time in jail while facing additional cocaine possession charges. The worst thing about the whole story is that the mom worked in a pediatric office where the job was literally to protect and heal children. But, hey, it's Florida. What do we expect? Number 7. The Bad Son. 81-year-old Joyce Willis lived with her 60-year-old son Michael in Pensacola, Florida. According to reports, they were best friends and lived in harmony. But suspicions started to rise when other family members couldn't reach Joyce for several months. Apparently, Michael blocked anyone from visiting or speaking with Joyce. A welfare officer visited the home and immediately noticed a foul smell. The officer also noted 2 couches that were pushed together and covered in blankets. Lifting the blankets up, the officer found Joyce's decomposing corpse, which apparently had been rotting in the living room for the last 4 months. Although Michael claimed he wasn't responsible for her death, he did fail to report it, which meant her Social Security checks kept coming even in death. Number 6. No prints. 20-year-old Kenzo Roberts was pulled over for allegedly driving a stolen Mercedes, but that was just the beginning. The deputies searched the vehicle and found a lot more incriminating evidence, including a fake driver's license, 3 counterfeit credit cards, and a concealed weapon. But it gets worse. As officers were searching his vehicle, they detained Roberts in the back of their patrol car. Unbeknownst to him, a security camera was rolling the whole time, and it shows just how nervous he was. He wasn't just biting his fingernails, he was trying to bite off his fingerprints. Security footage shows Roberts gnawing at the tips of his fingers to destroy any identifying markers. Unfortunately for him, the scanner was still able to read his prints and learn his identity. Number 5. Fast food. 23-year-old Joshua James of Loxahatchee, Florida, fancied himself quite the prankster. Just past midnight, he pulled into a drive-thru at a Wendy's and ordered a meal. After being handed his food, James wanted to return the gesture, so he grabbed a 3-foot alligator from the back of his truck and tossed it right through the window. Yeah, James drove away and the staff panicked at first, but then called local authorities who were able to capture the alligator and release it into a nearby waterway. Fortunately, nobody was hurt. As for James, police used security footage and the receipt from his credit card purchase. Yes, he used his credit card to track him down. James was arrested for aggravated assault and unlawful possession of an alligator, which is probably the most Florida of all crimes. James was ultimately sentenced to 1 year probation, 75 hours of community service, and a $500 fine, not to mention a lifelong ban from Wendy's. Number 4. Food fight. 34-year-old Jason Lawman of Deltona, Florida, was annoyed when confronted by his stepfather, Michael. Michael was on the rampage because someone had taken his can of shrimp from the kitchen, and he suspected it was his stepson. After some accusations, the confrontation grew very physical. Michael locked himself in the bedroom until the coast was clear, but his stepson wasn't having that. Lawman produced a Japanese samurai sword, which he then used to hack at the bedroom door, sending broken wood and splinters flying through the air as his mother screamed at him. They did manage to call 911, and the police were able to calm the domestic disturbance, but not before his stepson threw a pair of knives at him. All this over a can of shrimp. Number 3. Parent of the Year. Drivers in Boynton Beach were surprised when they saw a red Kia driving extremely erratic. Calls went out to 911 and they found the Kia on I-95. Behind the wheel was a former middle school teacher, Colleen Lochman, who appeared drunk. There was yogurt spilled all over her car and she was slurring her speech. After failing the roadside test, she just started screaming and threatening to call CNN to report the officers. But why, the officers thought, was the car sending sparks up as it drove? Well, a quick investigation showed she was missing a tire and was driving down the interstate on her metal rims. And to top it off, the police discovered her 2-year-old toddler was sleeping in the backseat of a car. Remember, this is a middle school teacher. These are the people that are teaching the children in Florida. Number 2. Zombies. In 2012, Miami police were shocked to discover a zombie attack in their midst. In the middle of the day on a major highway, 2 homeless men were in a confrontation like no other. 31-year-old Randy Eugene was actually eating the face off of 65-year-old Ronald Papo. Police ordered him to stop, but he refused, tore off his clothes, and kept attacking. As he continued to eat the older man, the police finally shot him, not once, not twice, but 4 times before they put an end to the horror. Police say he was exhibiting behavior consistent with the use of bath salts, a new synthetic drug that was turning people into crazed, violent maniacs. Eugene died that day, and Papo received devastating injuries to his face. He lost an eye, his nose, and parts of his forehead. He's since received crucial medical care and is living in a Medicaid facility where he spends his time in therapy and playing the guitar. Number 1. Uber it. It's tough being an Uber driver, but it's especially tough in Florida. Just ask one Miami driver known only by his Facebook name Mike Billy, who was taken hostage by his own passenger in Florida. 35-year-old Enrique Gamez claimed to have a bomb and wanted Mike Billy to drive for him. His plan? Enrique wanted to rob some banks and he needed a getaway driver, so he booked an Uber. Remarkably, Mike Billy was able to live stream the incident on Facebook, including footage of Gamez in a bank threatening an employee with a bomb. But it doesn't end there. With money in hand, Gamez ordered Mike Billy to drive to the Miami waterfront, where he proceeded to throw cash at random people on the street. According to one of his rants, Gamez wanted to give the money to the poor. He then called the police, reported a bomb, which brought the FBI charging in to arrest him and the driver. Mike Billy was set free, but Gamez is facing federal charges that will likely put him away for a long time. Well, that's it for the 10 craziest crimes in Florida. And if there's a totally Florida crime that we missed, let us know in the comments below. Meanwhile, if you enjoyed this list, we only ask for 2 things. Like this video and subscribe to the Decagon channel, and we'll keep you well nourished.